Hello there. I'm Reverend Joseph Owens, pastor of Shiloh Baptist Church in Lexington, Kentucky, and president of the DART Board of Directors. My church was a founding member of BUILD, the DART affiliate organization in Lexington. In my 15 years experience working with BUILD and DART, I've seen the power of justice ministry from getting primary health care expanded to an additional 14,000 people annually to winning an affordable housing trust fund for our city. We've designed this video to provide a realistic preview of the career opportunities in justice ministry organizing with DART. But first, I'd like to explain how the work of DART organizations differs from that of nonprofits with which you may be more familiar. Most nonprofits provide direct services to individuals in the form of things like food, clothes, tutoring, or hands-on home building. Organizations in the DART network don't engage in charitable direct services. Instead, we seek justice, addressing the root causes of community problems by holding powerful economic and political systems accountable for fairness. For example, organizations in the DART network have won implementation of restorative justice programs in schools and neighborhoods, expansion of bus routes and job training programs, increased access to health care and dental care, district-wide reforms to reduce out-of-school suspensions, and statewide regulations to limit the interest rates that payday lenders can charge. Many times, once people understand that DART organizations look to do justice, they think of us in the same way they think about advocacy groups. However, advocacy groups tend to exist solely to address one particular issue. In contrast, DART organizations are all multi-issued. They each typically work on 2 to 3 issues per year, and the issue changes from year to year. Also, whereas advocacy groups speak on behalf of some populations, DART organizations engage, train, and develop leaders in the community, people who are affected by the problem, to speak and act in the public arena. Our work is inspired by Scripture. The call to do justice is present in nearly every faith tradition. For example, in Islam, Muhammad proclaims justice as one of the 4 things supporting the world. In Christianity, Jesus condemns the scribes and Pharisees for neglecting the weightier matters of the law: justice, mercy, and faithfulness. And in doing so, Jesus was reminding them of the words of the Jewish prophet Micah, who calls us to do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with God. When we look at how most congregations are doing in terms of living out these 3 requirements, we see that 2 of the 3 are usually strong. Many congregations strongly encourage people's humble walk with God, or faithfulness, as Jesus puts it. They bring people together at least once per week for worship, and also have Bible studies, prayer retreats, and other activities in this vein. Congregations are also typically quite active in kindness or mercy ministries, sending volunteers to local homeless shelters, running their own food pantries or ESL tutoring classes, and so forth. However, congregations are typically not active when it comes to doing justice by holding powerful economic and political systems accountable for fairness. And the reason for this is simple. Doing justice requires having power in the public arena. One congregation by itself can hold excellent worship services, and one congregation on its own can run a fantastic food pantry or tutoring program. But on its own, one congregation does not have the power to hold an education system or healthcare system accountable for fairness. There are 2 sources of power in a community. There's power in organized money, and there's power in organized people. DART's mission is to build the power of organized people in each of the cities where we work in order to achieve justice. DART is a network of 20 local justice ministry organizations in 20 counties throughout these 7 states. Each local group has its own name. So, in Louisville, the group is called Citizens of Louisville, Organized and United Together, or CLOUT. In St. Petersburg, there's FAST, Faith and Action for Strength Together. Each of these organizations has its own 501c3 status and its own board of directors, and all decisions are made locally. The elements that unify these 20 are that they each follow the same basic organizing model. They participate in regional and national training hosted by DART, and they hire and train their organizing staff through the DART Organizers Institute. Each local organization is a coalition of churches, synagogues, temples, and mosques in that city that have joined together for the sole purpose of living out their shared values and addressing local justice issues. Within each member congregation, there's a group of lay leaders who lead the justice ministry team. Much like the choir is responsible for getting the rest of the congregation involved in music ministry, the justice ministry team is a core group of people that work to engage the rest of the congregation in doing justice. So anytime you hear us talk about leaders, we are primarily talking about these people, not because they are on the church council or the board of the United Way or some other formal designation as leader. Justice ministry team members could be anyone. The common denominator for justice ministry team members is that they are people who have the desire and the ability to engage their congregation in doing justice and have been recruited to lead their congregation's justice ministry. If you were to become an organizer within the DART network, you would be assigned to work with around 10 diverse congregations. Each of these congregations would have its own justice ministry team members, and your job would be to build relationships with these leaders and also to recruit new leaders to be a part of this team. So in total, you would be relating closely to somewhere around 50 to 80 clergy and lay leaders from your assigned congregations and working with them through the 4 major processes that each organization goes through every year. These include listening to surface community problems, research to uncover viable solutions, Nehemiah action to publicly negotiate for those solutions, and an investment drive to build member-raised funds. The listening process involves a series of house meetings. Justice ministry team members invite others from their congregation to their home to have an intentional discussion about the concerns people have in their community. This surfaces a long list of problems and stories. At the end of the listening process, the organization holds a large meeting where members of each congregation's justice ministry vote to determine which community problems will be prioritized for research and action. For each selected community problem, a research committee is formed to narrow that problem into a specific issue that can reasonably be tackled within a couple of years. For example, if the problem voted in is failing public schools, the organization would look at what aspects of the problem they could home in on to make the biggest impact, perhaps focusing on access to pre-K programming or early childhood literacy rates or out-of-school suspensions. Once the problem is narrowed down, the research committee meets with experts in the field and researches best practices to find out what's working in other cities that have solved that problem. They then do a power analysis to determine who in the community has the authority to implement that solution, which may include people like the mayor, city council, county commission, president of a local corporation, school board, or police chief. Those decision makers are then invited to a large public meeting called a Nehemiah Action Assembly. where typically between 1,000 and 3,000 people are in attendance. At the Nehemiah Action, leaders present the research and the solution, and testimony is given by someone directly affected by the problem. And in front of that large audience, the decision maker is asked to commit to implement the solution that's been researched. This is where the power of organized people is demonstrated. The final process for each organization is an 8-week period in the summer called the investment drive. DART affiliates do not accept government money and increasingly raise their funds through member efforts. Our organizations are funded through membership dues paid by the member congregations. Individuals who participate in justice ministry are invited to invest in moderate amounts, usually $200. We also spend a couple of months in the summer approaching local corporations, meeting with CEOs, and asking for investments in the range of $1,000 to $10,000. By gaining a large number of moderately sized investments and by focusing on raising money internally, the organizations maintain independence to work on whatever issues may arise in the listening process. Now that you've heard about our mission and the way the organizations are structured, we also want to share with you some aspects of this work which we'd like you to consider carefully as you discern whether this is a good fit. First, DART works with religious institutions. It's common for organizers to attend worship services, especially early in their training as they are just getting acquainted with the community. Meetings open and close in prayer. During the first few days of your training, you'll be expected to learn selected biblical scripture passages related to the call to do justice, and you'll be discussing the scriptural basis for this work with clergy and team members with whom you're working. We want to emphasize that working with DART involves working in a particularly religious setting, so we would ask that you reflect on your comfort level working within that setting. We do not discriminate in hiring based on religion or faith background. Next, community organizers work harder than most people, 50 hours a week minimum. In the beginning, you'll be working a great deal because you'll be learning while you're doing. And you'll be building relationships within the community. That takes time. During your initial months of training, you would conduct between 15 to 20 individual meetings with community members per week. Also, because many people work during the day, you'll need to make phone calls and some visits in the evening as well as from time to time on the weekend. That's not to say that organizers work every night or every weekend, but we do want to get across the idea that this is not a 9-to-5 gig, nor is it a 40-hour per week job. I also encourage you to take heart the idea that this is a long-term commitment. People offered a position are asked to commit to work within the DART network for at least 3 years. The reason for this is that when organizers leave after just a short period, it harms relationships and the community. So if you're just seeing this as something to do for a year or two before moving on to something else, this probably isn't the right fit. Organizing is also a career that involves a high level of evaluation. We take our work seriously, and there is a culture of accountability. We regularly review our goals and spend time looking at what went wrong when goals aren't met, and how to constantly be improving as we look forward to the future. These goals are typically numeric in nature. If hired, you will be evaluated based on things like how many people did you recruit to be Justice Ministry team members? How many people did you turn out to the Community Problems Assembly in the fall where people vote on the issues the organization will tackle? We spend a lot of time and energy training organizers to give them all the tools and resources to be successful in reaching these goals. But being a good organizer requires that you do the work and follow through on that training. I also want to state that this doesn't mean you'll be micromanaged. You'll have a lot of autonomy in your day-to-day work, but you will be held accountable for ensuring results. So if performance evaluations make you uncomfortable, that is something to consider as you determine whether this is a match. Finally, we found that certain qualities are shared by great organizers. One being a quality of persistence, a stubborn determination to make things work. There will be meetings that don't go as expected. There will be setbacks and failures, and people you have persistently followed up with in order to engage them. If picking up the phone to call strangers to set up appointments and having one or two of them hang up on you or not call you back would discourage you, that's something we would also ask you to consider in determining if community organizing is a good fit. I also want to share with you a few of the areas that organizers report as their favorite part of the job. Many organizers find great meaning in putting their faith into action and empowering other people of faith in the community to live out their call to do justice, a call which is many times neglected by congregations today. Organizers also tend to be comfortable being behind the scenes, not out in the limelight themselves, and many really appreciate that this is a career in which you are training and developing members of the community to speak and act on their own behalf in the public arena, not speaking on behalf of others. Most organizers really enjoy the relationships they build with the leaders, seeing them grow in their ability to engage their congregations and together make significant changes in the community. The diversity in the room is another aspect that frequently is cited by organizers as one of their favorite parts of the job. This work overcomes barriers and provides a way for diverse groups to talk and work together. Many organizers appreciate the personal and professional growth and development that is inherent in a career as an organizer with DART. Above all, DART organizers make a career out of doing justice, effecting long-lasting changes to systemic justice issues, some of which will affect tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people for years to come. I hope this has been a helpful introduction to our work and to the career opportunities available within the DART network. If you feel that DART's mission aligns with your values and aspirations, I would encourage you to submit your written application for review.